Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I want to read more of the bot comments. I meant to do it to my last video, but by the time I remember, the video was kind of over. So cool to show the snow, etc. Thank you for sharing. Happy New Year. So that was me. There was a little video clip I put in there from my pond that was I was filling with water, and I talked about a little bit. And so I put a little thing there, and this is what the bot said. Question number one here. I'm glad you enjoyed the segment on the weather. And number two, that's great. Way to start this year with snow. Again, they're more sophisticated. They're more words. It used to be like 3, 4 words. And so these are the suggested comments, right, that the bots are saying. Thanks, Paul. Spent the last few days right around hell. Nice to be back. Thanks. I'm learning to see life's miseries as divine blessings. That's what I'm here for, to show how that works. You're welcome. Blessings to you. So they give you options, right? They give you 2 options. Remember the last one, they talked about the so-called delete. So they kind of get the audience here to some of the questions. Then let me see. Like they're doing so many here. Oh, here. Nice pond. It's the first one. Don't know what you mean, but I'm glad you like it. So, yeah, because you didn't make the video. I mean, who needs these comment things, right? Like, who's using them? Does anybody click on these things and post them back? I mean, they're horrible. And it's stuff that I would never say, right? If I responded, I should click on all the replies and see what my viewers, the ones who aren't hearing what I'm doing here. People would just comment without watching the videos. Everyone else would kind of maybe get it. And this one, Sharon Schadenfreude. It's a German to derive pleasure from misfortune of others, enjoying their contact. Cheers. Well, I talked about that. People who want to see other people suffer, which is always bad because you suffer. Like that's you suffering, and get inside and having like consequences of suffering. Right? Anything that you meditate on, and you wish for other people, you get yourself. So, like that's why you don't wish misfortune on other people, no matter how bad they suck. Like you just let nature run its course. It's a fascinating word. I hear you. That's the first response. I was wondering if anyone would bring that up. Well, I wasn't. I've heard the word. I can't pronounce it. Let me see if I can post this thing here and see how it is. I don't know if... here's the word.
Schadenfreude.
Can you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that. Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. All right, so that's the word. I don't know if you can hear it on the... I'm using a different app. Yeah, Schadenfreude. That's the word for it. In case you guys were wondering, they have it in German. I'm part German. My grandfather, German and Irish and Albanian and Sicilian. I'm scrolling through the comments. Here's another one. Hey, Paul, love your videos, especially the parts about the treetops being planted upside down next to the grasshoppers. Did I say that? Like, cheers to a new year full of chickens, eggs, and beavers. Chickens, eggs, and beavers. I think this is a trolling comment because I don't know if I said that, but who knows? You got it. I know it's important to have perspective. Those were the 2 responses. Here's another one. Paul, the AI responses are hilarious, and I'm going to leave a second comment just to see how they answer. Thanks, man. Blessings. Well, they answered this one. They will respond to you if you are a member. I don't know what that means. I guess the membership program. Oh, I actually sent that by accident. Got to delete it. I'll just leave it there. No, I want to. I missed the other one. I hit respond instead of so I lost the second response. When you click on it, it goes into the comment bubble, And so there was 2 responses, and I messed that one up. Haven't seen you in a while, but glad I found you again. Happy New Year, buddy. Thanks, I'm here when I'm here. You are the best. Thanks for subscribing. And so just all this stuff that I would never say. Thank you for covering the fires. I know it's sad and scary, but thank you for letting me know you're okay. You didn't. I'm glad you are. And the other comment here is, I'll try to keep folks in my prayers. That's a bot saying that, right? What bot, what AI bot can pray? I mean, it's just, all these are hollow words, right? These are things that are just, thanks, Paul. When the internet was brand new and I couldn't wait to start sprouting my own personal thoughts and opinions and nonsense all around, it didn't take long to realize, yeah, this sure is dumb. I mean, no longer, I no longer search for truth. I just want to live and exist and do the least amount of harm and most good I can, most good I can as I can, and leave it at that. Blessings, everybody. It's not about finding the truth. It's about doing the work. Response number 1. Response number 2. I hear you. I always say, I'll take peace over truth. And then right below it, wow, that auto reply about the elite is insane. Your content is always the best, Paul. It's just the way to get the information out, not always the most intelligent way. It's just a way to get the information out, but not always the most intelligent way. I don't even know what that means. My humor is dry and dark. That's why I have so many comments. It's just an observation. Well, I guess it's true. My humor is a little bit dry, and it certainly is a little bit dark. It's definitely dry, and I don't know about dark, but I guess, So the bot got that right. All right, so read a couple more here. This one here. Thanks for the work, Paul. I'm just getting started. Thank you for watching. Well, I'm not just getting started. Like, I'm probably at least 60% over. I don't know. I have more to come, but I like your spirit. There's one here about AI bots that the thing didn't respond to, but usually when you say AI bots, they leave a comment. All right, I'll do one more here. We'll see if there's any more. So cool that you can see the fish swimming in the pond. It snowed here yesterday for the first time this year. Thanks, great video. Thanks, great video. It was a great day in California. I don't live in California. Like, what is it? And they don't mention California, right? And California is burning, not snowing. That's solely, like, what if I said that? If I clicked on that, it's a great day in California. It made no sense to the person commenting. And it says here, if you're going to be in a place where you need to be able to see your breath, I suggest finding a smooth spot to live. What? So cool that you can see the fish swimming in the pond. It snowed here yesterday for this time this year. Thanks, Paul. Great video. If you're going to be in a place where you need to be you need to be able to see your breath, I suggest you find a new spot to live. That's what a bizarre comment. And you're suggesting this person move based on them leaving a positive comment about it snowing for the first time. This means when you breathe out, you see condensed, whatever it is. Here's one more. Thanks, Paul, for always putting out such thorough content. I'm glad you enjoy it. I'll keep my viewers in the loop. That voice that this is the voice it sounds like when they do it. All right. I think that's all of them that I'm going to read. Scrolling down. Here's one more. You're picking them off. Picking them off one by one. It's like a bad horror movie. That's response number 1. Someone's always going to be the next victim. Yeah, picking them off one by one, and I'm sure what that is. Maybe me, mocking these people. But those are just weird. Somebody's always going to be the next victim. It's like a bad horror movie. Like, again, the responses don't make sense, and this is, again, more sophisticated responses, more words. They're trying harder, being more specific, but just absolute fail. And I think that they think, all right, if you don't use them, you don't use them. But, again, I don't have time to respond to comments. Very seldom do I do. Usually it's about gratefulness meditation or something like that. And people always try to reach out and, engage me in conversation, and I just don't have time for it. But, these things are horrid. So they're saying that you click on these things, but, it's the ultimate in being impersonal. Like if you have a bot generate your response to people, then why would the person want that response that you didn't even write? And I'm just a YouTuber. Again, anybody doing that is insincere. But in terms of people shouldn't be subjected to a bot response. I just wanted to leave a thoughtful, insightful comment. End of comment. Thank you. Hey, Paul. I just wanted to leave a thoughtful, insightful comment. End of comment. Thank you. You can always reach out via Messenger or Insta if you would like to chat more. These things try to sign me up for more. So you can chat more with a bot? If I don't have time to answer them here, do you think I'm going to answer them on Insta or a message? Right? If I'm too lazy to comment and I have to use these bot comments, and then this one here, this will be the last one. I will do my best to respond to everyone. No, you won't, because you're using a bot. But I do not read comments regularly after posting. I only read them once, and then I can't find them again. So their bots suck. If you're worried about bot takeover, they just absolutely suck. They're horrible at their job. All right, so let's get into the other stuff here. Okay, so let's start here. This is Yahoo Life, the decider. Sunny Hoyson talks about her husband on The View for the first time since the federal lawsuit. I'll show you that. I went back and got it because it was easy for me to find when I knew it was there. It was the video I couldn't get through yesterday. But knowing that she talked about it made it easier. It was easier to find this segment. But she... all right, we'll get to that. This is Manny. I guess maybe is Sunny... is she Hispanic? Is that Manny's usually a Hispanic name? I don't know. Maybe she's African American. He's Hispanic. I don't know what their demographics are. But we'll come back to that. And then here's Fox News. Here, there's Glenn Gladfeld. Sunny Hoyson husband drama discussed internally at The View. Sources say becoming a big thing. And so Fox News' player sucks because it does this when you pause it.
They claim to the title as the dumbest person on earth. The View co-host Sunny Hostin compared Jan 6 to such atrocities as the Holocaust and slavery. Watch.
Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on.
I say
because
no.
January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And
I say no.
When you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust.
Okay, wait a minute. That's not American history. World War II was kind of American history, but really World War II was good for America. America became a global leader. We bailed out Europe, that whole thing, right? And so America, there was casualties on the American troop side, but America wasn't invaded. Again, and the Holocaust was something that happened in Israel, or in Germany, right? Not Israel, Germany.
Slavery. We need to never forget because...
But you're saying that January 6th was on the same par as slavery? Holy shit. You say that the shaman truther run around like a moron and in the Capitol building was on par with slavery?
Past becomes prologue if you forget any race.
She's so smart. Saying past becomes prologue. Someone read the Cliff's Notes to The Tempest. But maybe Sunny's projecting a little when she compares Jan 6 to slavery. After all, her family owned slaves.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Race.
You know, I say this a lot because a lot of people who would be getting reparations have ancestors that were slave owners. We know that with Kamala Harris. So do you have to pay the reparations to yourself? Like it's, you know, if there's ancestral issues, when you have slave owners who are having sex or, you know, basically raping someone like Thomas Jefferson, and then there was all those things, right? And so you have that genetics inside you. You have the slave and the slave owner genetics inside of you, which is, you know, kind of a difficult thing for people to deal with, which I've talked about before.
Meanwhile, over on CNN, an anchor was stunned when he found out people are over Jan 6. Roll it.
Okay, so do they have anything to do here with, let me see if there's anything. This is just an old clip. Actually, let's roll this.
January 6th is your biggest memory of Trump's first term in office. By the time of 2024, look at this. Look at this. It was just 5%. Just 5% of Americans. And among Republicans, it was just 2%.
And that doesn't mean that they actually think it's a bad thing or they're upset by it. Because it, you know, everything that's exaggerated and fake and staged in some way or another. And, you know, even Stephen A. Smith was talking about how 22 FBI agents showed up to be provocateurs. And so all that stuff, which these guys aren't covering, I mean, they aren't Fox, but not these other places. But, you know, like it was just goofy, right? But you couldn't even talk about it, you know, till recently without being, you know, demonetized or having the video taken down. The thing was goofy, it's silly. You know, I mean, it wasn't like they tried to make it like a big insurrection. You can't have people be dumb and criminal masterminds at the same time. You can't call Trump dumb and say he's an idiot and pretend, you know, he's incompetent and that he's also a criminal mastermind. And you can't say that about these January 6th morons. But anyways.
So the bottom line is few Americans faulted Donald Trump or thought he was greatly responsible for the January 6th attack.
And this is The View takes up the entire list. And there's only 5 of them. But each one counts as 2. Mackie!
Let me see if I don't think it says anything. This is just about January 6th.
Just like the whole...
Okay, so this is just an old clip they put in there. But anyways, they're having internal discussions, according to Fox, about what to do about Sonny's husband. And Sonny mentioned her husband here yesterday. Today's the 11th of January, and then on today's the 12th. So then on the 10th of January, which was today's Sunday. So, okay, so the video you're watching now will be up on Monday, and this video was put up on, it was from Friday the 10th. And I was looking through this to see if Sunny would mention, I figured she wouldn't. But now here. You know, I was watching Amazon Prime last night, and the arrow, I'll pull that up later, for Amazon Prime in Amazon, it's a penis. I realized, you know, I've seen it on boxes so many times, and the one for the Prime might be different from the regular one, but it just looks like an arrow, so I didn't think about it. But all these symbols have some sort of, like, if you see the logos and the symbols and the thumbnails and the whatever it is, it has something to do with like Freemasonry or occult stuff, or it's phallic. And then they have the big V here, right, for these women.
So remember the rock group Blondie? This group remembers, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, lead singer Debbie Harry is 79 now. My God.
80.
How time flies.
Well, time flies when you're in your 70s.
And in a new interview, she says that she doesn't think having a relationship at her age is possible.
Oh, I don't believe that.
And she does all her flirting while she's shopping at the Home Depot. Now, everyone knows my advice on this is you find a younger guy and let him push your wheelchair around Home Depot.
Boom. That's what you do. Joy gets it. Joy in the whoopee seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do. Yeah, yep. That's how you do it.
Go to Home Depot to find some old guy over there who knows how
You're
to
not
fix
looking
it.
for an
It
old
depends,
guy. You're
though.
looking for a handy man.
Handy man.
Handy man. So this is where she talks about her husband.
We say, Joy, that it's really good to have somebody. I
Younger.
think the three of us married younger
No.
guys. Not Anna.
Not her.
Mine's
Anna-
same age.
Anna went-
Unfortunately, I wanted to go really old, and I got young.
Yeah, Anna
Not
went
you, but Al.
Anna went in a different direction. But I love the fact that, Manny is younger and he's
How
very...
much younger is he?
Just a little bit.
He's like 1 year, isn't he?
Like a month or a year or 10 years or
5
what?
years.
It's more than a year. Anyway, it's not about me. I think...
Yeah, it's about Manny and his criminal investigation.
No.
I think that it's very helpful that he's handy, and when we travel, I'm not picking up any bags. He's the one that's hefting them over.
Yeah, that's not handy. I mean, that's called chivalry, where the man will actually pick up the heavy bags. Which you guys are against because that's, is that toxic masculinity? But she's saying he's handy.
Overhead. He
Exactly.
throws the garbage out.
Right.
He does the heavy stuff.
Exactly.
He does the heavy stuff because he's younger, and he's virile, and he defrauds people insurance-wise, and the View ladies are refusing to discuss it.
Not
like
to ever
that.
disagree with Queen Debbie Harry, but there is never an age limit on when you can find love. I think people can date as long. You always hear these people in retirement homes. My grandmother actually found
If you haven't found somebody, like, all right, let's say your spouse dies and you're old, that's one thing. And, whatever it is. But if you haven't found anybody and you're 79, it's probably over for you. If you haven't found your soulmate by the time you're 79, if people like companionship or whatever it is, right? And there's a period of time where you just stop having sex. You're just, regardless of Viagra or these things. Remember Suzanne Summers' husband was getting massive shots of testosterone. And, like, they wouldn't have sex forever. Then he'd get these shots of testosterone, like they were in their 70s or 80s. And whatever it is, right? And he would suddenly become virile again. But, it's just silly. And she won't talk about their husband in a real way here. Only the fact that he's younger and he picks up the luggage. And he may be going to prison, and the View's going to have to deal with this. The reason this is interesting, which I didn't get into before, I talked about how she talked about medical, the allopathic medicine, how everyone's these healers, which is, there's that. But the way they were about anti-vaxxers and the way they were about everything to do with all of this stuff. And if her husband defrauded people, there's a time where people trusted doctors, and you have to trust them. You're turning your physical health over to them, right? Like, you have to have some level of trust, because belief in what you're doing is a key component to healing. And so if you go to counseling and therapy and you distrust the therapist and counselor, they have to win your trust over. It's not going to work. And if you go to a doctor who's you don't trust, it's going to make it so less likely that it's going to be effective, because there's the placebo effect. But trust in your medical professional and believing in it is a key part to something working, like in anything. And people don't trust their doctors anymore, and they don't trust big pharma. And then after the COVID debacle, it's gotten worse. And so now, like, her husband comes out and he's defrauded people, and the U.S. government, after all the shit she talked about Trump and these things, and the View ladies. It's a wonderful story. And they're going to have real issues, right? She's supposed to be a lawyer, so, like, why would, he would know the law, and he should know right from wrong. And she's making whatever money she's making on The View. They're wealthy. And he was billing the government for foot surgeries he never did, or whatever it is, defrauding, putting out information to the the insurance companies. Like that's, there could be, he's going to prison, right? And again, I mean, it's just the hypocrisy's off the charts. So this is something my wife sent me from the Medium. I don't know what it is. They have UAP reporting trends. And this is NASA's metallic orbs, the surprising briefing everyone missed. On July 1st, 2023, a Pentagon official at NASA headquarters calmly stated, "We see these metallic spheres all over the world, making maneuvers we can't explain, moving at Mach 2 against the wind with no apparent propulsion." This was a government scientist discussing objects that defy the laws of physics in a briefing where the Pentagon and NASA were sharing findings like this a year after the study. There should have been front page news. Instead, it's barely made a ripple in the mainstream media. You can watch the entire briefing here on YouTube. All the quotes that I'm using will be time-stamped. All right, let's go check that out. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who is the director of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Officer, didn't beat around the bush. Showing a video of a metallic sphere captured by military sensors, he stated, the matter of fact, this is a typical example of the thing that we see most of. All right, so let's go to the video here. Okay, so here is the first comment here.
That is notable, even though we are looking across all of those domains.
So this is the graphic the guy had in his article.
On the upper right, we have UAP morphologies. The vast majority of what has been reported and what we have data on, a little less than half now, are orbs, round spheres. And in the bottom right, you will see in the heat map of the areas where we get most of our reporting. This is very much a collection biased map. This is
okay, so they have the east coast of America, the west coast of America, the Middle East, and China area in the the Pacific Ocean here. Down by there, China's over here somewhere. But it's across here. This is the equator is like right here, the middle part of where the sun hits the Earth at the most direct level. But this is where they're all tending to be.
where our sensors are, our military, NRIC, and some of the FAA data. In the middle, it is what we call our typical UAP characteristics for the vast majority of the cases that we see. One way of looking at that is we'll call it a target package. This is the thing.
So this is round atypical orientation. So they're really getting with the orbs, right? I've covered the orbs before in recent videos. The orbs are, something completely new and different, right?
We are out hunting for in most cases. Next slide, please. This is an example of one that I showed at the hearing recently. This is a spherical orb, metallic, in the Middle East, 2022, by an MQ-9. I will come back to the sensor question that David raised here in a moment.
See, there's the orb.
This is a typical example of the thing that we see most of. We see these all over the world, and we see these in making very interesting apparent maneuvers. This one in particular, however, I would point out.
So this is NASA Live, which of course lacks credibility, but we saw the orb.
Demonstrated no enigmatic technical capabilities and was no threat to airborne safety. While we are still looking at it, I don't have any more data other than that. And so being able to come to some conclusion is going to take time until we can get better resolved data on similar objects that we can then do a larger analysis on.
Okay, so there's another timestamp. We'll go to that in a second here. So this is the official NASA broadcast, public meeting of identified anomalous phenomena. The Mach 2 comment is coming up here. Let's watch that.
And how do we make sense of that? your first question on what makes it anomalous to me, we actually developed some definitions on all of these things. We gave it both to the White House and to Congress. I think we've got some of that into law now, but essentially anomalous is anything that is not readily understandable.
So, the ability to believe in these things, everything has to be taken with a grain of salt because all videos can be deep-faked and there's all this, whatever. And nobody believes in the government or media, and nobody believes in independent, people like me. Nobody believes in anybody anymore, right? There's a loss of trust and faith, a loss of any kind of authority, because with authority we no longer believe in. And, why things are coming out now when they didn't tell before, and, what's their agenda? What's the angle? Why do they have an agenda? These are all things that people ask, right? But when you find something that's buried, like now the orbs and the drones are being talked about. But this is from 2023. And these guys are showing you, they've had these other hearings that nobody really covers. Extraterrestrial life and, technology beyond our technology is big fucking news, right? It should be big news. And people don't talk about it. And now they are kind of, but this is, again, this is an article in an online publication that I've never heard of. And, people who know about these things and look into them, it's being talked about by Joe Rogan a lot, so he's got a big audience. But for the most part, it's just not being addressed, right? People aren't, thinking about these things as being important or like even know about them.
By the operator or the sensor. Right? So it is doing something weird, whether that's maneuvering against the wind at Mach 2 with no apparent propulsion, or it's going into the water, which we have shown is not the case. That is actually a sensor anomaly that we've now figured out, and we're going to be publishing all of that. Those kinds of things make anomalous signature. We'll call it signature management, but
I'm sure he's not psyched. He's got the caution handicap thing behind him.
It's things that are not.
It's funny that a few ladies were talking about finding a younger guy to push him around in a wheelchair. And here it is.
Readily understandable in the context of, hey, I've got a thing that's out in the light. It should reflect a certain amount of light. If it doesn't reflect that amount of light, something weird.
I think we have time for one last question.
John, you recommended foreign partnership with NASA. I'm curious, especially given your map, have you, as Aero, partnered with international agencies, and is there ways for reporting to your?
Mm-hmm. So that's a great question. I want to expound on that just a little bit. So I have just held our first Five Eyes forum on this subject last week, I think it was, or earlier this week. I don't know. Dan was there, and we have, we've entered into discussions with our partners on data sharing. How do they do reporting? What kind of analysis can?
Okay, so I don't want to listen to the rest of this answer. You guys can find us at 105.25 if you're interested in this. But I want to talk about etheric life. Part of the teaching of the Sajmark system, you have a life of a soul. But there are planets in our solar system that have etheric life, that are there, that planets evolve, and there is, like a time of youth, when a planet is young, its youthful phase, is when there's physical life, right? And there might be a time before there's physical life, then there's a time where, there's biological life forms like we are. And then there's evolution of the planet, and the souls that are connected to that planet evolve to be an etheric life. And then they are associated with that planet, but of course they can travel because they're etheric, and they can incarnate on other planets. Like there's there's souls that are from different parts of the universe. And that's why people often don't get along or don't feel connected to other people. You have a soul group. where your soul is originally from. And then there's souls that are originally from Earth here, which would be, souls that have less time being in a more evolved state, right? As your soul develops and gets closer to God, and its knowledge and its, it begins to expand and become wiser or whatever it is. I don't know how you would describe the soul's level of consciousness. But when you incarnate on Earth, it's easier to see. There are people who are not capable of abstract thought. And those are people who haven't, their souls have been in a lower level for a while, and now they've been upgraded to, maybe they were an animal or something in a past life or whatever, right? They've never been a human before. And so, they've never been evolved to this level of consciousness. And so these souls, these higher developed souls, are now coming to Earth. All these past saints, all these higher developed souls from other regions that are doing God's work. Because we're at a choice point, and there needs to be evolution that happens on Earth, and there's some issues where the humans that exist today were, created in test tubes and things. This is part of the philosophy. And that we have shorter lives than we should, and we're not, we have a tendency to go low, to embrace our lower nature instead of embracing our higher nature. And so all these famous saints are here, either physically incarnated or surrounding the Earth, and in etheric life, higher developed etheric beings that are on a different plane of existence, a higher level of existence, and are here focusing on Earth. So that's what the Sajmark philosophy says. And now we're hearing that there's also extraterrestrial presence has been more. Like there's been times in history where this has been documented. Orbs have been shown in paintings, spaceships, space people have been talked about in Aboriginal cultures, where people were aware that there were higher developed beings that had technological superiority, and they were interacting with people here, and they could be seen flying around, and then they kind of disappeared for some period of time and were erased from history by the people that control the system, the people I call the controllers, and now they're back. So these are the things that to my understanding, is what's going on here. Okay, so I looked at the rest of the quotes, and they weren't really worth watching on YouTube. The one thing they said that these orbs are being seen all over the world. And so, there's orbs flying around the world according to these people. And pictures, there's video evidence and whatever. And nobody gives a shit, like in terms of like they're talking about goofy stuff. So then, I think my wife sent me this, somebody did.
Hey guys, do not scroll. This is a 30-second video and it will change the way you live. A quick hot tip that has changed my life is use ChatGPT to make your grocery lists. It is simplified the way I shop and it is amazing. Here is a quick example. I just said, I want you to create a grocery shopping list for me. My budget is $100 a week. I need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Please provide me with a full list of ingredients to purchase within my budget for the week.
Okay, so you're going to die soon because $100, we'll see what the list is.
And boom, there we go. Easy as that. It has
$70
changed the way I shop. Let me know in the comments if you have done
70 hot dogs. That's great. I didn't know it was going to be a joke. Of course, $100 is 70 hot dogs. So he's going to eat 70 hot dogs. That's great.
That it has changed the way I shop. Let me know in the comments if you have done something similar and how it's worked out for you.
So we know that the bots suck right now, based in what I've experienced. One, I've interacted with the bots over this YouTube channel. I had this conversation, and I said, you're shadow banning me. They said, no, we don't do that. And then they stopped shadow banning me, kind of. They started notifying people again. And, the bot, it was just interesting talking to the bots. We know from this is just how I'm relating to bots. We know from my other conversation I was running ads. I was trying to run ads. I was trying to pay money so YouTube would run ads so I could increase my view of stuff that YouTube used to do for free, that somehow my channel would get out to more people. And I eventually came up with the idea, because they started to show my ads on channels that people would never come to my channel, right? Ridiculous channels that had nothing to do with what I do here. And so my wife suggested, can we recommend channels? So I went to my audience and said, what channels do you think would, who are you watching besides me that you would think would be a good idea to run ads on their channels? And it would be cheap to run ads on their channels because they're going to be channels that are not, given the A+ rating, right? They're channels that are given a lower rating. And so ads are cheaper to run there. And you guys came up with this over 50 channels. And I sent them to this guy, a human being I'm interacting with. And I said, I just want to run ads on these channels. I'm paying for advertising, right? He said, well, we can't do that. We'll take your suggestions into consideration, but the machine is running the show, and we have to wait for machine learning. So AI wouldn't listen to me, and I know my audience better, and you guys know more about it than they do, right? Because you guys are watching my videos, and you could see other people who, where you might also watch videos, and so potential people that would come over here and like what I do because of similar type of channels, and it wouldn't do it because AI is running all that shit and it's doing it horribly. And so my experience with AI is that it absolutely sucks. It's arbitrary and can't get it done. And, people worrying about taking over the world, like it can't even do the jobs, these simple little jobs, right? So, there's that, and there's orbs flying all over the earth. A little bit of the wildfire update, right? I've said this recently with news stories. Whatever it is, you're just watching it with whatever your reaction is, right? And some people will lock into something. Small percentage of people in the truth community, small percentage of people in the, sheeple community will just lock into a story, and they need some resolution. And for them, they keep on searching about the story, but the information just disappears, and they move on to something else, right? And that's why none of this stuff matters, because there's just nothing to it, right? There's no resolution. You don't affect change. I mean, you might donate money or do some shit like that, right? Apparently, Mandy Moore had a GoFundMe. People are giving her money, right? Like celebrity, like for herself. Anyways, so this is Mel Gibson.
Award-winning director Mel Gibson, an old friend, a Malibu resident who tragically just lost his home to the Palisades fire. Mel, I was thinking about you when I saw this fire break out. I think I talked to Raymond. I said, is Mel okay? Is his family okay? I instantly thought of you. He said...
Is Mel okay? Is Mello okay?
He thought you were okay, and I'm glad you got out. I'm glad your family
Wait a minute.
is safe, but...
I see. Wait,
tell us what...
He's still got a fucking chimney or a column there.
What it was like to be on Rogan's podcast when I guess you learned that your home had been lost.
Well, I didn't learn it was lost. I knew the neighborhood was on fire, then I was in the path. So I was a little tense while I talked to Joe, but he's a guy that can put you at your ease fairly well. So
yeah, he is. He's just great
I was
at that.
doing okay. And I knew that my family
gave
was
you a little
safe
bit of
out of
ivermectin.
harm's way.
Were you able to get possessions that, of course, are really immaterial when you have your family, but I've been to your house. It was an incredible home, beautiful home. But were you able to get anything out of your house?
Not much. A few necessary things. My son I said, just go and grab this and this and this. And he grabbed like 3 things and took off. And then, those are okay. Stuff like passports and a couple of papers and stuff like that. But by and large, everything was it looked, when I got there the other day, I went up there yesterday, it looked like Dresden, after Bomber Harris got through with it.
Okay, so I don't think you need to be doing shit like that. Already you're in trouble. Dresden.
Yeah.
Mel,
so nothing left.
For those of us watching this from afar, try to convey to us the feeling of seeing your home, your neighbors' homes, and the community there at such a loss.
I mean, it's tragic. It makes you really sad. I was actually, there are neighbors I have that I was actually looking at them. I felt worse for them than I did for myself.
Because you're just this selfless guy. He's just amazing.
You know, I look at it as a strange mixture of sadness and almost kind of an elation in a sense that I count my blessings, you know, no matter what.
Yeah, he's known for that.
These are things, and they may or may not be replaceable, but they're only things, and we're still here, and I just kind of look at it as almost in a weird kind of way a purification but of course it's very sad, and there were many things, you know, gone in the blaze that you know, I've thought about since. I thought, oh damn, you know, that's too bad. But you know, works of art, photographs, rare books, you know, old books. Some as old as, you know, 1600. You know, like crazy.
Irreplaceable.
And irreplaceable stuff. Yeah. So it is what it is, I guess.
What is it though, Mel? What is it?
It was only a month ago that the flames threatened us, you know, 200 meters away on the other side. And of course the wind shifted and came in and whipped and got us from the other direction. So it was an interesting.
You've heard, you know, you've heard the.
Go on.
You know, both. You know, you've heard a lot of people say a lot of things about these fires. Obviously, the winds were horrific, but they were predicted. I know you know that last weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they said this could be tragic with these winds if any fire starts.
Sure.
Do you believe in what you know so far,
up,
anything could have happened like this?
There are a lot of trees left there.
Yeah, well, one always suspects that this might happen.
Look at all the trees.
One thinks that the resources, you know, and the capabilities of the men and women will be on standby, that they'll be able to cope with.
Way more trees than you'd expect.
But apparently, some people were asleep on the job. Mainly our leaders there, but you know, that's something they have to live with, and but that's something that community has to live with. And it's really sad. I mean, I have many friends that are, you know, looking for a place to put a roof over their heads, and kids, and you know, they're traumatized. So, someone should answer for it, but we'll see. I think we know who the culprits are. In fact,
Gavin Newsom?
My son he's a member of the volunteer fire brigade. He sort of interfaces between LA County Fire and people, and they assist them where they can during, before, and after the blaze. And apparently the residents in Corral Canyon caught an arsonist up there. And the guy was all tooled up with fire gear and equipment and stuff like that.
I mean, amazing how many trees there. You look at it, just sucks with Fox News. You know, when you pause it, it just goes to this, which sucks. You know, they should change this, but, or at least for me, you know. But
ready to go, and
the trees
had been lighting fires, but they corralled the guy in Corral Canyon and gave him to the police. So
yeah,
there
apparently
are people actively going around looking for these conditions. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently, Mel, that individual was never charged. It's a very confusing set of facts because
all the shrubs and trees that didn't burn. It's
reportedly trying to light things on fire.
This tree here.
It's not the fires, I guess, that they. I mean, it all seems very bizarre. But they have not ruled out that arson could have started the first fire. There's obviously still investigating this, and at the same time, Mel, there are numerous complaints.
Okay, so there's a part here where he goes into a conspiracy theory. I gotta find it. My mouse just crapped out on me, so I gotta plug it in. I have a rechargeable mouse, so that's happening. So I think I saw this on New York Post. There's an article, maybe Yahoo, I don't know, somewhere. And this was the part that they were quoting him.
You know, I know they were messing with the water, letting reserves go. For one reason.
There's no water. I don't know how the water gets to the hydrants.
Mel, reaction to that?
Well, you know, I know they were messing with the water, letting reserves go for one reason or another. They've been doing that a while. California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as
water.
why they do things. And then in the events like this, you sort of look, oh, is it on purpose? Which, it's an insane thing to think.
Yeah, it's totally on purpose. Like, why wouldn't it be? You know, what's weird, like I said, if you see it when they showed his house, I would say 90% of the trees around him didn't burn. So the idea is these are forest fires that also engulf homes. But it's spread tree by tree. And if it's just burning homes like it did in Hawaii, then that seems a little bit suspicious, right? Because a wildfire would be burning the trees. And the trees there would be really dry. They have a certain kind of trees there. You know, the deciduous trees, trees that aren't native that people plant there. Well, maybe those things survive better. They're a little more. Yeah, you wouldn't if there's, you know, they're being watered at the house, and that's the other thing. Like they're watering their lawns. These trees aren't as dry as the wild trees, right? But you see all these ponderosa pines and things. If you look back at what I showed you, they're surrounding that canyon or that area. And those trees are like matchsticks, and they're not burned at all, right?
But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be? You know, I don't know. Do they want the state empty? I don't know.
Well, Mel, there's already talk, and we played a couple of sound bites of.
Okay, so that's his conspiracy theory, right? Which he shouldn't be given because of all of it, right? I guess these are little bits of the interview here. This is the woman talking there. And so there's another great actor. I can't imagine this guy if he's possibly homeless. I haven't seen the video yet. They probably didn't get his home because he's a little demonic. But let's look into how Corey J. Feldman is dealing with the blaze.
Things are much more serious today. We are getting evacuation warnings at our house. This is the hill right behind my house. So it is getting extremely close. That's still about, 5 miles away. But, given the winds, things can jump dramatically. And
So this is Sea Dog here. He's got a little fire there. Got a little showing a picture of him. Sporting some gray hair there. White here from Sea Dog. LA fire update. It's getting closer to us. I have faith we'll be okay. Do have all my valuables in a position that's ready to load and roll just in case. I also just reserved moving truck in case the evac warning were under become an order. I'll definitely keep you all posted. Meantime, please praying for LA, Cali, and all innocent lives and wildlife. Sea Dog, bringing it. Sea Dog's like a cockroach, right? And so there's 9,000 likes. Sea Dog. I mean, we can't get Sea Dog. Be safe and ready to evacuate these things, right? Let's go to Sea Dog's page here. I guess he's sporting gray hair these days. Is that, there's other videos. So he's milking this as much as possible. But if anybody's going to survive, he's like a cockroach. There he is there. I guess he divorced his, unless he's dyeing his hair blonde now. I don't know. I don't know what's up with Sea Dog. But he, look, there he is here. I guess he's dyeing his hair blonde. He broke up with his main angel. But if anybody's going to survive, it's going to be Sea Dog because, like he said, he's a cockroach. He's going to survive the nuclear blast. He survived everything. Sea Dog is a survivor. I'm editing today's Monday, January 13th. I did this originally yesterday on Sunday. And I just want to add this. Corey Feldman was a joke, a clown, right? He would do these goofy dancing and singing. And, he was in some good movies as he was younger. And as he got older and older, the movies and the TV shows got worse and worse. Then he dove into reality TV shows. And he had that cult of young actresses he was trying to train, and it was like a harem of skanks, and he had one called his main angel, and he was Corey and the Angels. I mean, the whole thing, right? So he was an absolute joke. But then he tried to scam everybody because he was going to release the names of Hollywood pedophiles. He was trying to get in on the Me Too thing, right? And he had a big name, which was Corey Haim, which he later said was Charlie Sheen. And he had been hinting at that at years, but it had already been out there. And he charged people. He did a pay-per-view thing that failed. He had huge technical difficulties. People were pissed off at him. People paid him money. And he withheld all these names. And he went on and told his guy, the guy that abused him, and it was a nobody that nobody recognized, right? That everyone was like, who? And so this is the same kind of thing. If his house doesn't burn, right? Like, he wanted to be a victim. He wanted to be a part of the Me Too thing. He wanted to be a part of the whole thing that's happened with the awareness of Hollywood celebrities, the children, so these kids being abused there. And, you know, he tried to monetize it. He tried to scam people out of money. He started his own social media platform that crumbled. He couldn't sustain it. And then he only had trolls there. Like, he had very few fans and mostly trolls. And it was hilarious because the guy was, you know, he, instead of like being traumatized by his abuse, he tried to monetize it. I mean, he's just like a parasite, like the worst kind. And, you know, I mean, he went from being a joke to being like a real scumbag. And so now he's out there hoping his house burns down so he can be a part of this whole thing, and they're going to skip him over just like with everything else. Okay, so that's a dick. I'm surprised they never saw it before. But look at it. You know, like that's their thing. You know, they put a lot of sexual things. Of course, Joe Camel. You ever seen that? It's, you know, the old Joe Camel for the cigarettes. But that's totally, like, it was by itself without the A. I think maybe the A or the Amazon part I end up looking at. And they just have this logo sitting by itself. When you're opening up the app right here. See if it's just that. I mean, look at it, right? And so it's a dick pic. So I told my wife about this, and she said, you know, we had this conversation like a year ago, something like that, because she had pointed it out to me. So I don't know if I ever mentioned it here, right? I mean, everything just blends together. Like, you know, but when I see an Amazon, we get a lot of Amazon packages. Like, that's my preferred, you know, and Amazon's evil, but it's, you know, it's an evil that just makes my life so much easier. Like so many other evils that we have in our life. Evil from the standpoint of its company, not the services. But when I look at the package, I almost never see the arrow. Like, you just see the Amazon words. But it's there when it's by itself, right? It's so obvious. But, you know, it's just like all these things blend together after a while. Anyways. So there's that. While everyone's focused on California, families in North Carolina, I got a lot of good stuff from Instagram people sent me, like the Corey Feldman, are freezing in 3-mile propane lines and FEMA's closed. And so North Carolina's already been forgotten about, you know, the devastating, bizarre hurricane thing that they weren't prepared for. Many people lost homes. And this is a line for them trying to get propane. And they have propane heat. And it's cold as fuck there, I'm sure, because, you know, it's January, the worst time of the year. And these people are trying to get it. So this is, you know, like it's so quickly they move on from all this bullshit, right? Like these, not bullshit, but these stories. Like, who remembers anything to do with the hurricane? These people are coming from both directions, these monster lines. And so, you know, this is the state where people are being evicted of their houses without, you know, just by bizarre shit. Like, first was the Hawaii thing. There might be something I'm forgetting. Hawaii fires, bizarre hurricane in the middle of the country, in the middle of the states, you know, far away from the coastland of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, some of these other places, and all these people losing their homes, and then the stuff now with the wildfires, and just clearing out these places, and then the next thing you know, there's all these 15-minute cities that are building. I've seen them everywhere I've gone. Anywhere I travel, I see they're building these 15-minute cities with shops and restaurants and things on the bottom and apartments on the top. Or these other big kind of complexes that are very close to strip malls where you could take public transportation and go around and get everything that you need. But they're building them everywhere. In every place I've gone, they're there. And they're probably in states that they want people to move to. And so, you know, whatever you believe about these events, these things seem to be like front and center.
Scam that's going around you need to be aware of. It's a good one. It's one that would have gotten me or one of my family members or someone I care about. A package is going to arrive at your house. Maybe it's a box, maybe it's a padded envelope. It will be addressed to you with your information on it. It may or may not have a return send address on it. Cool, someone sent me something. What is this? Open it up. Inside of it, there's going to be a QR code. Scan to find out what your gift is.
Okay, so there's where your problem is. One of my viewers sent me this. Nobody's giving you shit for free. Like, scan to see what your gift is. Yeah, your gift is you're being scammed, right? Like, people don't give you shit for free. I mean, if I get a package that I didn't request, I don't open it. I just chuck it, right? If something like this happened, if it's not from some source that I ordered from, then I would throw it out, right? Because, or whatever it is. Like if there's an email saying, well, we've just won something. Oh, but I didn't enter anything. So how the fuck did I win something, right? It's always a scam. People don't give you random gifts. Oh, we just happen to pick your name randomly and want to give you something. Like whenever that's the case, they're scamming you. People aren't giving you something for free. They're luring you into something. There's lots of scams out there that are better than this. At least, like, you're more likely to fall for it. But if you get an envelope addressed to you with a QR code saying, why didn't they just mail you the gift, right? Why do you have to do the QR code? Like, why isn't the box with the gift in the box, right?
Scan for more information. The instant you scan it, you have just handed over access to everything inside of your phone. We're talking your passwords. We're talking about all your text messages, all your emails, all your personal communications, all of your credit cards, all your photographs, all your videos, access to the cloud, access to everything local on your phone. You may not even know that you gave them access. Time goes on. Oh, they didn't get me. Whew. Okay, I scanned it, but everything's fine. They could just be sitting on the access, right? Or they could be looking through it, monitoring you, and you have no idea. The scam artists are very smart. This is not going to end.
Okay, so I told my wife about all the trees yesterday. Today is Monday, whatever, January. I'll go look at my phone. 13th. And here's John C. Reilly. His home is gone. And look at this tree. Now, these trees are right here, right? Some burnt trees here. There's that. And then there's Eugene Levy's house. Look at all the trees around it here. And there is, whatever that guy's name is. He's a Republican conservative. Now, the fires are still raging there. His house is burning. And all those trees around it, right? And so, it isn't, these are forest fires. They travel from tree to tree. And, shrubs and bushes and things like that. They don't travel from house to house. It's harder, in many cases, depending on what the house is made of, to get the house to set on fire than it is to get a forest fire. But it seems like, from what we've seen, starting with Mel Gibson's house, that the houses are being burned, but a lot of the trees aren't. And usually when they have that kind of fire, when I've gone out to places, the 3 or 4 times I have been in places where there's been one of these western forest fires, it's every tree. Like the whole place is just matchsticks. So up by the wherever the fire is, there's patches of fire, and there's some parts of the forest that ends up not catching on fire. It stops at some points, it misses some points, right? Some areas are saved, but the areas that are burned, everything's burned. There's not like a tree half alive or whatever. They're just all these. It's just like I said, the north face of the Grand Canyon, the Jemez and Los Alamos, the places that I've seen, it's completely burned. And so, some of these trees don't even have any, like there's no burnt leaves or they're green. And so, remember they said they had these energy weapons for the houses in Hawaii, and I'm not, and then all these houses that were painted blue didn't burn. So, it looks very suspect. Just the amount of greenery that's there. because, you know, there's whole areas over here. And these things, like, these look like they've been burnt, but there's still little branches and stuff on it. Usually what you would see is, you know, all the stuff is like the branches are burned off, and there's just a stick sticking out of like a big trunk of the tree sticking out of the ground, and there's some of that. But again, it seems like they're just burning the houses. So we've seen 4 celebrity houses that have lots of greenery around them. Even some of the trees that are on the property close to the house aren't being burnt at all, which is, this is a forest fire. It's not it's not a neighborhood fire. It isn't going house to house and skipping the trees. So it looks very highly suspect, based on what happened also in Hawaii with those fires. But anyways. Okay, so I want to say one sort of more meta thing here. Meta in the sense of, it's channel, not Facebook. Actually, both things. So I listened to a little bit of the Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg interview. And Joe Rogan does a good job of making anybody sort of likable. Like he's, in terms of his, whatever he produces there. Because he has long conversations and people are able to be, outside of whatever bullshit they're projecting and role they're playing. But Mark Zuckerberg, there's some flaws in what he was saying, but he talked about how they went about censorship. And, they didn't want to do it for a variety of reasons. Obviously, it was bad for business, which he didn't get into, but that was part of it, like the major part of it. But he talked about how that when the shit went down with COVID stuff and some of these other things, they didn't want to censor. And the Biden administration was swearing at them and threatening them. And then they got into those other threats. Of course, there was that Section 221 where they were trying to take away their ability to protect themselves. And they were forced, and there's a point in there where Joe Rogan's saying like something about it being, they made it legal, and Mark Zuckerberg goes, no, it was totally not legal what they did. They just completely forced these companies. Now, Mark Zuckerberg could have pushed back. He could have made it public. He could have said what was happening with the Biden administration. He could have joined the movement when Elon Musk, like he was happy when Elon Musk did whatever he did. With the Twitter and the Twitter files, right? He said he was never comfortable with the influence that that these social media platforms had on deciding elections and things like this, right? But the thing that I would say, the takeaway for me is that it's clear that he and these other people who had to deal with this, it forced them to go right. And of course, Trump was also censored. He was deplatformed. And so he's a president who's pissed off about this kind of thing, right? Where Trump is big into censorship. Like Trump would like to censor the left and these, like Trump is totally into censorship. But now that this has happened to him, he's more likely to, and not just for his term, but in terms of moving forward. Like these companies don't want to, be subjected to this kind of bullying by one side, which was completely unconstitutional. The Biden administration was such an absolute disaster. It's with all of these things, and them pushing this agenda. Whenever you use force, and I say this, whenever you use force, there's a counterforce. And because things are being expedited, sometimes the counterforce takes years, hundreds of years, before there's some movement. The part of the whole liberal agenda was because the Christian conservatives forced their worldview on these people, like people of color, gay people, whatever it is, right? These various groups, and they were being forced to adapt to this, this religious-based political movement, right-wing movement in America, which, the conservative movement ran everything, and they censored the shit out of people. And so that was why there was, the freedom of speech used to be hippies saying we should have all these freedoms that you guys are told, they're taken away from us, that are our constitutional rights. And it used to be the left people whining about censorship. But now they've reversed it, and they've pushed for this censorship, which is a huge mistake because it's like immediately backfired. And so in the coming years, when censorship will be more important, there'll be all these ways that these companies will be prepared for it, just like what happened with COVID. And they all feel like COVID was an absolute, like Mark Zuckerberg was basically saying that all these things were an overreach. And he's certainly not a truther. He's, but he's gone towards the right. And he felt like the Biden administration, when they attacked an American business, it made his business vulnerable all over the world. And they had to pay, 30 billion, billions of dollars, not just Facebook, but there's been over like $30 billion that Britain extorted from these companies just so that they could keep on. They kept on bringing them in there and bullying them and fining them and whatever it is, right? And so, now these companies are like, fuck you, we're going to endorse, or we're going to make it easier for the other candidates to have a platform to, unseat all these liberal people that push for this censorship. A place in Britain where they have that CCTV and all this stuff. There's these TV show I watched about it, and it's come up a couple of times in a couple of different TV shows I've watched. The CCTV, where they have cameras everywhere in London, and they were manipulating these cameras and putting deepfake thing in there to present evidence that didn't exist to convict criminals and other people. And so, like, the whole thing was, there was a couple of these, these fictional TV shows are about the spy, the level of spying they have in Britain, which is their, certainly the NSA is similar, but they're even worse. Anyway, so there's that part I wanted to say, that there's been a movement. Again, the right wing isn't good, but the left wing has gone batshit crazy. And so people well, there's two choices. Everyone's being pushed towards the right. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it certainly happened. So the other thing I want to talk about, because I've been talking about commenters and comments, and, people have the ability to understand what it's like to be commented on or even made fun of because of your comments. Because it happens all the time where people will post a comment and somebody will troll them or say shit about them. So when I read a comment and mock it, that's an experience that pretty much everyone's had, their comment being scrutinized or seeing other people's comment scrutinized, right? But people don't know what it's like to receive lots of negative comments in terms of social media. And there's something more to it that I wanted to explain here. Because if you're going to be on social media, there was a young woman from England, I forget where she lived. One of those places like Nottingham or one of those, whatever it is. And so this is back when I had about 30,000 subscribers. And she wrote to me, and she was trying to get her channel going. And she did some kind of prophecies. She had like three kids by three different guys. And so she had three kids. I think one of them had disabilities. And she had some kind of physical issues, and she was like 25, like something like that, right? And she had, a lot of drama in her life. And she had these, like, sort of, I guess, tarot card reading. And she said that somebody was taking her, like what she was doing, and using and having her accent, even though the person another woman didn't have her accent, and was copying her whole thing, whatever it was. And she was like really upset about it. And I said, well, how many views does she get? She goes, well, like 8 or 9 on her videos. I go, well, how many views are you getting? She's like, I don't know, 20 or 30. And I'm like, well, you don't even have a channel. Like, if you're only getting 20 views, that's maybe friends and family and relatives being nice or whatever. Like, you don't even have a channel. Like, if you have 100 views per video, you don't have, like, that's like almost like a benchmark where you're getting 100 or more views, but like, on a regular basis. But that's not even really a channel. Like, you're not, you have a small section of people, maybe locally. You're not making any money. You're not, and she, she did these readings for people, whatever. But Like, I think she contacted me again some years later, but she was struggling. Like, she in these videos she was talking about, she made a bunch of videos about this woman, just whatever, copying her and this whole thing. It was like, unnecessary drama that you would just ignore because, like, neither one of you really have an existence on the internet, right? And I'm like, if you are worried about negative comments, which she was, like, if you're going to be sensitive to them, and you're going to take them seriously and you're going to let them change your life and wreck your day, then there's no reason to be on the social media at all, like in any capacity. People are going to attack you or harass you because that's what people do on the internet. And so if you want to be out there, you have to figure out a way to deal with it, right? And so most of you guys don't really even think about this or even understand it, right? Because I've had literally millions of comments. I don't know how many. YouTube used to have like a part of their algorithm was about, they don't really like the comments. Like most, they like the social engagement, but they're not that psyched about the comment section. Like if they could, they would get rid of it. Although it's a big part of the platform, because of all the stuff, right? That, just, it's a mess and people are just nasty and whatever. So out of those millions of comments, tens of hundreds of thousands of them are hostile in some way. They're just, you're a piece of shit comments that people are saying to me. And so, people don't understand that. Like, and I don't really, the comments themselves, I mean, even the good ones, like I don't get emotionally affected by them. But, it's just the hostility that's there. And I want to tell a story, and I've talked about this before, when it happened. And I just came back to my mind because my wife and I were talking about Farley. So I'm hopefully going to put some video up, some of the videos. I have Farley video somewhere. So Farley was my wife's dog, and she had 3 dogs, and the other 2 had died. And Farley was sort of like the last of that sort of generation of dogs. She's always had some dogs. Like she's had, dogs over the years. Different dog groups, like, a couple of, pairs of dogs or whatever. And when we first met, she brought Farley with her. She came to visit me. And, I never liked little dogs because they're little dogs, little yapping dogs. And I worked in a restaurant where I was there was a couple of managers. And there's one manager that kind of hated me and the other manager liked me. And the manager who liked me asked me to take care of his dogs while he went away for the weekend. And it was like I couldn't fucking say no. Like it was just a nightmare. And he had one dog, and it was a little yapper, and the thing barked forever if you put it in a cage, and it shit all over the place. And I had a roommate, and the whole apartment was covered in shit for like it's just a nightmare. It was like, and I just like, oh, these little dogs are like, I like a big dog person. Plus, when I was like 7 years old, I was playing hide and go seek, and there was this guy's house, Old Man Wilson, we used to call him, and he was just evil and mean. And I was running across his lawn. Of course, I didn't understand that. We didn't do just ever. You would just go in people's yards and shit, and cut through your yards, and like back then when we'd walk, when I'd walk to school, we could cut off like the majority of the walk. I had to walk down the street to the end of the street, and then like there was almost the school was if I cut through yards, if we hopped some fences and cut through people's yards, which sometimes we did. It cut off about 90% of the walk to school, right? And so, there was these things. But usually it was like the morning, just like, this long drudging walk to school in the cold winter of Connecticut. But I was playing hide and go seek, and I was running across Old Man Wilson's lawn, and he opened the door and let his little rat dog named Pepper out. And everyone's telling me to stop running. And I stopped, and Pepper came and bit me in the calf on the leg. And I was like, why are you telling me to stop? I would outrun that little fuck, So I'm not a little dog fan, but Farley was great. Papillons are like my favorite breed. I had a border collie named Lucy, was a great dog, but she was, it's just too much. I didn't have any work for her, just a working dog. Papillons are very athletic. I mean, incredibly nimble, athletic dogs. They're like little puppies. They're like puppies, like perpetual puppies. In fact, they're like cuter as they get older. And they're affectionate, smart dogs that can chill for hours. They're good traveling companions. And, they have other, like, abilities. They bark, but not, like, excessively. So they're, like, mostly just, like, kind of an ideal dog in different ways. And Farley was just this really cute dog. Farley weighed, like 4 pounds. My dogs now, Buddy and Tulsi, our dogs now Tulsi weighs 13 pounds. She's a huge, very stocky Papillon. She probably has some other dog genetics. Like, she's way stockier than any Papillon I've ever seen. And then Buddy is like, I don't know, 7 pounds, 8 pounds. And he's much longer. Like, they can both jump up on the bed, and Farley could never do that. I mean, she probably could, but she was just a small little dog. Small little cute, really just lovable dog. She wasn't as, I think Buddy and Tulsi both have more personality. And, Farley was already old when, like, I, started interacting with her, which, we started to have a relationship. But Farley and my wife had a cat named Wampus that's also gone now. And sometimes Wampus would come in while I was doing the videos and jump up in the bed. But Farley was in the bed with me, most times when I was doing the videos. And then Buddy and Tulsi now do that, regularly. Especially Buddy, who likes to, like, as soon as I wake up, he makes a beeline for the room, and he's in there waiting for me to be there. And he just sleeps on the bed. And Tulsi will look out the window. We have a lot of activity, like there's cardinals and squirrels outside my bedroom window. She just stares at the window. But, they're there for this thing. They're like part of my work day. And I, like their company. And so there's one video out there, hopefully I can find it, where Farley was, we're at the beach. I think it was when my wife and I got married. And Farley, I'd pick her up and we'd walk over, and wading in the, the surf. And she would see the water and she would just swim. Something that occasionally Tulsi does. But, Tulsi and Buddy are more, and again, it's like Farley was an older dog, but they have more personality. Farley's just a pure little, cute little, sweet little dog. I just went and found a folder, a bunch of videos, so I'll be able to put these videos in. But anyways, so I made a video I used to make videos about Illuminati blood sacrifice. And these celebrities would die. And I didn't know whether they were really dead. There's all these various narratives about them. I mean, I didn't know any, what went on with them. But, of course, I wouldn't react emotionally to it. I wouldn't be upset by it. And there was a time where, is it Chris Cornell, a guy from whatever that, band is, I think it's Black Eyed Son. Don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know. And then right after he died, that guy died from Linkin Park, Chester Bennington. And I, didn't listen to their music, really, either one of them. It wasn't really, they were not celebrities that I know, but they were so much suspicious about their deaths. Like the guy had strangled himself with using an exercise rubber band on a door, where he had access. If you were going to hang yourself, at some point your natural desire to live will kick in, and you're going to try to touch the ground with your feet. So if you had access to touching the ground with your feet, which you would if you hung yourself from a door, there's all these things that were very questionable. Stuff with Robin Williams, right? And all these deaths, they were just very suspect. And, there's this Illuminati blood sacrifice idea that was there, some of these other things, right? And so, Chester Bennington's wife was named Talinda. And I was like, wow, is that a witch name or what? Talinda is like a name that you would see in a movie where there's witches. Cast this spell, Talinda, like this kind of thing, right? It's just a witch-like name. She had dark hair, whatever. She looked witch-like. And one of my viewers had been I think someone who had regularly left positive comments. And that person wrote me a long email. I must have banned and he was really upset at me for mocking or making fun of this celebrity death, right? And, it was long. I mean, I just, blocked the person. I read a couple of lines or whatever. Didn't really think much of it. And so a couple years later, Farley dies. And the person writes another, must open up another email account and wrote me another email saying, I've been sitting around waiting for something like this to happen to you. And I'm like, holy fuck, right? What is wrong with you? Like I said something, you know, he must have liked Chester Bennington or whatever, but he was saying that I was being disrespectful, which I am in general, right? I'm not respectful of any of this stuff. And it's, you know, and it's the illusion to me. It's a, you know, it's a, not an illusion. It's a, you know, it's not a thing that I connect with as like a human being, right? The suffering of celebrities. I mean, there's just, my wife was saying Mandy Moore's set up a GoFundMe page, even though she's worth millions and millions of dollars, to help her with her burnt house, and she's getting money from people. You know, it's like these things. But the celebrity culture and anything I see in the show is a show. I don't feel connected to it at all. I don't feel, you know, bad when people die. I don't feel good. I don't root for people's pain and suffering. I mean, you know, I cover it, I mock it or whatever it is. But I'm not, you know, I don't feel bummed out if Alec Baldwin doesn't go to jail or some, you know, whatever happens. If Kamala Harris won, I wouldn't, you know. There's no real emotional reaction to any of it. I don't react to it. It's like I'm watching a show, right? You know, I root for certain people and I root against certain people, whatever. Like, just like if you were watching a TV show or a movie or something. But I feel nothing towards any of them, right? And so this person was saying that I mocked this guy's, Talinda's suffering, right? And that he had been waiting for something to happen to me where I would feel sad and, you know, like karma would get me. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're saying this about a 4-pound dog? You know, like, you're celebrating my dog's death, right? And that's your position, and you think like that's your, you know, you have some moral high ground to do that, right? And again, this was somebody who had liked my videos and then all of a sudden didn't. And, you know, it's an extreme example, but there's, you know, people are fucked in the head, right? Like they're just messed up and misguided. And, you know, every person who's a fan who likes my videos is a potential Judas or a potential person who will turn on you. It happens all the time. Everyone who has people who regularly watch their stuff, you'll say the wrong thing, or people will, you know, people who say, you know, they loved you one moment will say they hate you and wish bad things upon you, right? And, you know, anybody who does this and has some, you know, level of a following knows that their fans can turn on them. It happened to me in a way that some guy who was a popular truther, not, you know, he was less subscribers than I had, but he was somebody had, you know, 10,000, 15,000. I probably had 30, 40,000 subscribers at the time. And I didn't know who this guy was. And he did this thing that was going around the truth community or the internet, which was called mirroring, which was taking a truther's video and putting it up. And mirroring, they said mirroring the video, but, you know, I had no idea people were doing that. And there are people who were just ripping off my videos. A lot of people from foreign countries, especially, this was back when I was getting millions of views on a video, when I was doing Illuminati videos and, you know, these kind of things. And so I had people who would just take the whole video and put it up. And somebody would point it out to me, and I would, you know, follow a copyright thing to get the video taken down. And I did this for this one guy, and he had a following. And instead of coming to me, he made a video saying I was trying to destroy his channel and that I was some kind of piece of shit for doing that, even though he had stole my video, and he did it with another video, and he was monetizing it. He was making money off of it. And, you know, he encouraged all of his people that watched his videos to come attack me. And so I came home from going out, I had a migraine headache, and I opened up my comments section, and there's 300 comments. And some of these people were people that watched both of us. And so they immediately turned on me with no real information. And like I said, a migraine headache, I had to go through all these comments. And I had to now deal with this and make a video and explain my point of view. And I found it incredibly weak. The guy was, you know, like just a weak thing to come and tell your viewers to go attack somebody. Especially, he gave them misleading information and didn't understand my point of view at all. And, you know, most people understood that I was in the right, including the guy who eventually offered me money to repeal the copyright strike. And he apologized. Like, but, you know, I mean, it was like what he did was like, you know, it was good for me. I'm glad it happened. Because I, you know, made a decision that sending my viewers to attack somebody was disrespectful to them, and it wasn't, you know, it was a misuse of power. Like people have, you know, you have influence over people, and you have to, and not misuse that power. Like when you have given something, you have to take it seriously, right? With great power comes great responsibility. So, like this kind of thing, and I realized, you know, it was good for me to experience that, right? Because I understood it. But I also saw how all these people who regularly commented and were supportive of my channel, in a moment's notice, could turn on you. Like, I mean, there was some percentage of my audience that were, you know, thinking that I was a piece of shit because this guy told some, you know, like a completely one-sided point of view when he had wronged me. Because I didn't give anybody permission to mirror my videos and didn't know that was even a thing. And I didn't watch other truthers, so I had no idea this was something people did. And I said, well, don't do it for my videos for various reasons. I explained why that was. Sometimes I delete videos myself. And they're, you know, when you take a whole video of mine and put it up and monetize it, you're competing with my original video. And, you know, things that this is my job, and this is my creative content. You know, this is not like this taking a clip or something. This is taking like a whole video and, you know, using it. And sometimes they would get rid of the introduction so people wouldn't even know who it was. So they weren't even promoting me, right? But anyways, you know, like I understood that people will turn on you. Like people who say that they, you know, they're supportive of you, love you, whatever they say. And that means nothing. You know, in the Sajmark tradition, the third master of the system, Charji, had said, you know, it's like the Judas principle. It's always 1 out of 12. But it's really more. Like in terms of Jesus, it was 3 out of 12, right? Thomas doubted him and Peter denied him. But Charji had said that like 1 out of 12 people will betray you in some way as a spiritual guru or whatever it is. You know, he gave this talk where he had these inner circle guys. He had these guys who were mostly rich guys who, you know, he was a successful businessman. And these guys mostly came to America, made a lot of money, and then returned to India. And they would travel around with them. And he gave this talk where he said they were like the worst fucking people. Like he slammed every one of them. He said they had horrible characters, they were rude to people, arrogant. And he had nominated a successor, and the guy was threatened. The guy kind of, you know, I had a negative interaction with him as well, where he seemed like he was an arrogant piece of shit too. But the guy he withdrew because all these people turned on him, and it was like, you know, it was bad. And so this guy who was in the room, one of these senior guys, there's a guy who made a lot of money in America, but I really respect this guy. Like he's a real devoted, really nice person. All my interactions with him and what I saw of him, he was just like a great preceptor and person who did this, you know, meditation that I do. And he told me that he was in the room because I brought that video up. And he said all these guys came down to breakfast the next day, and they were there, and they heard Charji say this. And he was supposed to be their spiritual master. And they were high-fiving each other and laughing like nothing ever happened. And so, like, Charji had more than just one. And eventually he made this guy, Kamlesh Patel, the successor, and you guys should know about the story. And Kamlesh Patel turned out to be a piece of shit, this guy Dodgy. And he's, you know, done all these scams. He's just a moron on top of it. And he's disrespected Charji's legacy every possible way. He's erased his books. He won't republish them. He, you know, caused, I think, many of the books to be washed away in the flood in India, as in that flood, all this publication of these books and things. And he's, you know, he's disparaged Charji in a very subtle way. Like Charji has more people that like him, you know, remember him as who do the meditation, who looked at Kamlesh, this guy, and thought there's no way you could compare the two. Charji was a legitimate spiritual master, but he was also just good at everything. He was a good public speaker. He was a great writer, great public speaker, great writer. He spoke many languages, and he was just a great, in terms of the business aspect of the mission. He was just good at everything. He was just, just a very high functioning person. And Kamlesh is a dope and like a moron and just a bad leader, and just he doesn't have any of these qualities. And it was unthinkable to all of us that the person that succeeded Charji would talk about in this way because of the guru culture that exists in India, and the reverence that you have for the guru, and the fact that Daji's done this. Like, people are in denial; they can't see what's happening. They won't see it. It's so obvious. When Daji was young, this guy Kamlesh Patel, when Babaji, the first master, died, and Kamlesh was like in his early 20s, and he didn't like Charji, and he and some other guys got a gun, which is hard to get in India, and they went to kill Charji. Charji had a number of times where some guy showed up a gun, like a professional hitman. He was also poisoned. And then, Babaji's family turned on him and claimed properties that weren't theirs, things that he had built, ashrams and things. One ashram in the upper part of India. And so he had to battle with the family and lawsuits and all this shit. It was brutal. Charji had a very tough life. His mom died when she was 5. And then he had all these relatives that died, and he had to be the one that lit their funeral pyre. They cremate the body, so the soul doesn't hang around. That the soul, goes to where it needs to go. Like, oftentimes, apparently, if you do what we do with wakes and all these things, and all these people love you are pulling the soul back down with their attachment to the person, and so they try to avoid that by cremating the body. And somebody had to light the pyre, like it's some kind of ritual, and there was all these people that didn't show up, and so Charji just had to like, as a young man, had to do it over and over again. He had to do it like 20 times, where he's like, and all these things. He wrote about this in his book, and he had this very tough life, and he was rejected by so many people when he became the successor. And so Kamlesh tried to kill him. He got into a car, and in Babaji's, where he lived in Shah Jahanpur, there's only like couple of major roads. Like, it was rural India in the the early 40s or whatever it was. So 1983 is when he died. But he like, it was just rural there and not very developed, and it wasn't complex to drive around there, and they couldn't find Babaji's house where Charji was staying. And eventually Kamlesh said, there's something wrong here, and got out of the car, to his credit. But he told this story, and he later became Charji's kind of his disciple. But he was, in the back of his mind, he didn't like Charji. And as soon as he died, he tried to crap all over him. But when he was alive, he was, praising him and all these things. He would give talks and talk about how great Charji was. And then when he died, he was like, never mentioned him again, right? Because he was a real piece of shit. And he was faking. And so, I'm aware of these things, right? Like, what's happened in the organization that I'm a part of, which is, again, unthinkable. All these people claim to love Charji, and now they're letting this guy throw him. Like, all these people would cry and weep when they couldn't be around Charji, when Charji would leave, and they have to leave his presence, and they would like how great he was, and master this and master that, and they're like, fuck that guy, right? I mean, they're literally, it's unbelievable. And so, like, people could proclaim that much love for somebody, and then watch him just be, his legacy be just destroyed, and just erased from the history of the mission and the organization. And then what I've seen here on the internet, like that. And so, the hostility that's there for anybody who does what I do, people are going to disagree with you, and you have to deal with that, because you can't be pandering to people, because what they're trying to do is silence you. Like, they put pressure on you to get you to shut up and not voice your opinion, because they can't handle that I believe something different, right? Or anybody on the internet believes something different than them. And it's a weak, pathetic, cowardly fucking position to be in, where you're like attacking people who disagree with you in that way. Trying to silence them, trying to get them to stop doing what they're doing because it makes you uncomfortable, because you're that narcissistic that you can't imagine that other people aren't going to be like you and are going to express things that, that you don't like to see, or they make you feel a certain way. You feel butthurt. And even people who claim to love you, you could say the wrong thing, or they could be in the wrong state of mind, and all of a sudden they go from saying, "Oh, I love you," to being being completely hostile to you. So much so that they're celebrating your cute little dog dying, right? Like just fucked up shit that people will engage in and justify it whatever way possible, because people are fucked. And so that's why I relate to my audience the way I do. Like I appreciate the support, the love and support that people give me here. Prayers, people, and there's some people who would never turn on you. And, the financial support, people donating money, all these things. I appreciate all those things, right? But I know that at any moment, somebody who, used to say they love me and love my show can turn on me in a heartbeat. Like it's it's this idea that they have like everybody's a potential terrorist in our society. Like they get into this situation. And once you have like so much negativity and hate on the internet and you receive so much of it, and even though the love to hate, I don't want to call it love, but whatever it is, the positive to the negative is, 80% positive to 20% negative. I mean, for me, it's even less. I very seldom get a negative comment, right? But I accept that people will get tired of me, like, well, I don't like that guy anymore or whatever. And, not so they have to tell me or whatever, but some people do because they, they're so narcissistic. And I say, don't tell me because I don't want to know. And they do anyway, right? Because they want you to feel like a piece of shit. They want you to feel bad about yourself. Like it's, all the negative comments have one thing in common, is they want you to feel bad. They want you to suffer. Like, so there's, tens of thousands of people who have said to me personally, I want you to suffer. And they want to infuse their dark energy and where I have to experience it, or anybody, that they're commenting to. It's a plague on the, humanity, where people just want to take you down or make you feel bad because you said something they didn't like, or maybe it's just because they're having a bad day. It has nothing to do with you. They just happen to be in front of them, right? And so that's what exists in the human condition. So that's how I relate to, there's strong boundaries I have here because I know that's the case, right? Like I'm aware that that's just, everyone's a potential freaking hater. And it's just how we, it's just a part of the thing. There are times that people want to reach out to me and have conversations and whatever. And I'm like, I just can't do that. Like, I don't have the time for it. But I know oftentimes people then push boundaries. And, like, it's just, it becomes, weird or something. Like, it's not just some easy, people are like, well, why don't you want to respond to me? Or, they want to get me to answer them in some kind of way where we can have an exchange. And, I've seen this over and over again. People push boundaries or whatever it is, and like it's just get goofy about the thing. Like I said, I don't have the time now, and I've just made it to where I heart people. If somebody asks me a question about the gratefulness meditation, sometimes I'll, if it's a legitimate question, I'll answer them. But people just want to engage. They want to be seen. They want to be recognized. They want to be, they want me to acknowledge their presence. And, it's my acknowledgement isn't worth anything. Like, you think it is, but it isn't. Like, it's just like I'm nobody, and it's no, it's not like it's important. It's important to you, but it's not really, because it's not, it's something you think you want, but it's not really there for, it's not anything. Like, people think that I have some sort of, because of my, spiritual knowledge, I have some kind of powers, which I don't, or whatever. I have some, abilities that I don't, and I'm special in some way, and I'm not, right? I have, like anybody who commits to doing work for God, you utilize your abilities and maximize them, and that's happened to me to whatever extent. And so, I stand out compared to other people, but it isn't like, I'm okay, right? It's not, there's nothing there to be, idolized or, to think there's more than there actually is, right? I'm just a normal person that has, whatever abilities I have in terms of doing these videos and whatever spiritual abilities that I've been given to help support the Sajmark system and keep it going, and the gratefulness meditation things, and have insight and connection to God, which makes, be where I see things other people don't see, and, whatever, being dyslexic and having these different, pattern recognition abilities and things. And, there's some things there, so yeah, it stands out a little bit, but it isn't really anything. Like, I'm not, my validation of you should mean absolutely nothing, right? Because even if I was somebody great, it's external. you have to feel good about yourself. Like you have to connect to the divinity within you and feel good that you're on the right path. Like every person has to do that. External validation means nothing. Awards, wealth, success. If you feel like a piece of shit or you're not happy with yourself, if you know that you're doing things or you feel guilty or ashamed or you're, whatever, you have weaknesses, whatever they might be. And so the external validation isn't going to make you feel better if you don't feel good about the course of, the path that you're on, and you're not congruent with what your soul's purpose is, which is really the big thing. If you're doing what your soul wants you to do, then you'll feel good about yourself, because you're doing what your purpose here. You found your purpose. You found your path. And even though you deviate, you make mistakes, overall, you're going in the right direction. And that's almost nobody. Very few people are doing that because they don't want to. Their egos won't let them do that, right? And so they feel lost and they're looking for external, absolution, like people going into confession and being absolved of their sins. And nobody can do that for you. Like you got to figure out what you're supposed to do and do it. And lots of people are so twisted and so bankrupt, and they're so, there's no love inside of them. They're so, whatever it is, they can't rise up to any of that stuff because they're just so lost, or they don't have the ability to. I mean, it's just they're twisted and crazy and, messed up. And that's the world we live in. And I'm aware of it, right? And I'm not, I can't allow myself to be brought down by other people's, the masses disease. Like what's happened to spiritual leaders over and over again, and I'm not claiming to be one, but I'm aware of it, is, this is what happened to Jesus. They get sucked into the drama. Jesus had a spiritual fall at the end of his life. And they get sucked into the drama and they start feeling hurt by the betrayal of the people like Judas and Thomas and Peter, these things, his disciples. And then the masses themselves, and then they turn on you for no apparent reason. But, one of the reasons is because you forgot that you're supposed to be here serving God. And you don't get into, you just like, one of the great Sajmark teachings is you do the work and you leave the results to God. You leave the results to the divine master. You do the work. The work is yours. The results are God's. And I was specifically told that by Chargy, and it's something that I've stuck with, for my whole, like he wrote that in a letter to me, which I've discussed in my journey series. And I've kept that, as part of my, orientation to the world. And so I don't get into the results. Like I don't, the channel of suffering, if I'm not getting as many views, I'm making less money. It's a job. There's that aspect of it. Like it's a job, so I have to make a certain amount of money, and I'm below that level. And I don't know how to rectify that situation. But the rest of it, in terms of how many likes I get, how many people are commenting, all these things positively, like that's, I feel good about the videos. Like that's what's important. Like I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm providing a service, and I'm working for God, and this is all, been something that I have to, that I'm supposed to be doing. This is, congruent with my soul's path. And I can feel good about, that part of it. So I feel good about, whatever I'm doing, like my, the other things that I'm doing in my life. There's been advancement, spiritual advancement. I'm changing. I'm growing. I'm, moving forward. It could be better, but, it's, at least I'm on the right path. And when you're not feeling that way, life sucks because you're, some part of you feels like you're missing out on something. Like you're falling short of the mark. And nobody can rectify that for you. No religion, no person. Like you have to figure out what you're supposed to do, why you're here. And nobody can tell you what that is, right? That's what that's your responsibility and your soul responsibility. Soul and soul. S-O-L-E and S-O-U-L. Both souls. Anyways, so just so people be aware, that's where I come from in terms of my relationship with my audience, because the internet's so toxic, and so we all have to do something. We have to affect some sort of our ability to defend ourselves, our ability to cope with the negative energy that inevitably is going to come towards us. It just will, like for lots of different reasons, and it's just there. It's part of the whole thing. And if you can't deal with it, then you shouldn't be doing this job, right? And so there always has to be, some way that you have to figure a way to minimize the effects of the toxic nature of people. It's certainly during this time where everyone is, hateful and angry and lost and bankrupt and mentally and psychologically, twisted. And so that's the world we live in right now. To do the work I'm doing, I have to be out here in the public, and, there comes with the other things. Anyways, let me wrap this up now, and I'll continue. I might follow this up at some point. Only spirituality will save this world. It's power motto, definitely important for the apocalypse. And the ascension, everyone have a blessed day, and be grateful.